You are listening to the MS Power User Podcast. This is the podcast for the Microsoft enthusiast and power user. We discuss the latest news from mspoweruser.com about Microsoft Windows, Surface, Xbox, and apparently Snapdragon processors. My name is Vernon E. Smith, and I'm joined as usual by Andy Bennett. Hi, Andy.
Hey! So, last week on the Intro Banter Chronicles, Vernon moved into a new house. Today, we move to find out what's new.
Oh, jeez. Wasn't expecting that. Well,
hey, I wasn't really expecting it either, so...
That's okay. Well, we
sometimes
did move.
These things just pop up.
This place is so much fun. I'm so excited to be here. The challenges we have ahead of us. Who am I kidding? No, it's just a whole lot of work so far, and it kind of sucks. It really does. But one of the awesome things about this, though, is that we moved here so that some people that know me sort of well, my teenage daughter, is now living with us again. She's from a first marriage, and she's living with us. And just as I was coming up to record, I overheard her chatting with her friend from New Orleans via Skype, and they were debating Sunni versus Shiite. Shiite? Yeah, Shiite. And I was just so proud. Like, that's just great that, and it's not, whatever. I mean, it's a cool thing. It's nice to know that she's involved. She's not just talking about what the Kardashians are up to or something. And, I'll just shut up now, I guess.
It works. My week has been busy is an understatement. There's a lot of stuff going on that I'm not really able to talk about too freely at the moment, but boy. Let's just say I probably have a lot of paperwork in my future.
Well, you tend to take the more prudent approach of actually shutting up about your personal life, where I spill a good
my personal life. I would go on a bunch about my personal life if I had a bunch to go on about my personal life. there really just isn't too much going on with me lately, because I'm I'm in that Christmas mode where you just stay back, you watch Amazon, and just wait for the entire week. That type of stuff.
So kind of like a sand spider that lays its trap and just waits for an unsuspecting insect. No, that really doesn't tie into anything Microsoft. Okay.
It works though. Okay. All right.
We're done. Intro banter over.
Yeah. That's the end of this week's Intro Banter Chronicles. All right. Now we actually get moving on to this week's news, which is huge as we're recording this on a Thursday night. Last night was WinHEC over in let me see. I'm not sure of the location actually, I believe, or rather how
for us on this side of the world, it was over in China.
Yeah, I was trying to remember the name of the city.
I know, but it doesn't make a difference to me. Maybe that's just me just being blinded and a dumb American. But
I believe the name of the city where they're holding this was, and I'm hoping I'm saying this right. Someone please correct me if I'm not. Shenzhen. I'm assuming.
Oh, that's a pretty popular. Shenzhen sounds right. Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So Shenzhen, China, was where WinHEC was held, and they announced some pretty big stuff. The biggest bit, really, is that they showed off Windows 10 running on a Qualcomm Snapdragon processor.
Let me roll it back for just a second.
Oh, okay.
So Microsoft has a lot of different events throughout the year, and they all have a slightly different focus. They always want to tie it back to Windows 10. They want to, show, they want to give their shareholders a reason to be happy, that type of thing. But WinHEC is one basically all about hardware. And so it isn't really much for consumers. I mean, it exists, but it's just not there's usually not that much to be excited about. Now, when they roll out hardware like that they make themselves, Surface Studio, for example, fantastic. Definitely a consumer product, or at least
Studio maybe not. Studio maybe not exactly consumer, but regular Surfaces, sure.
What I mean is that it is consumer facing, whereas WinHEC is almost always
I get you.
OEM facing, where we don't really care what's on the inside of these devices or how they tie together. But obviously Microsoft and the OEM, the third-party manufacturers, how they care how that all ties together. So some years WinHEC is pretty boring, and this year is definitely out of the ordinary for that.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, too, this is the second WinHEC, or rather second main WinHEC conference after it's been brought back. Because it was brought back fairly early on in Windows 10 development. They announced they were going to start doing these again. This is either the second or the third that they've done since bringing it back. Because I think it was killed off somewhere in the Windows 8 era.
I do not recall. I'll show them out to
either way,
prevent further embarrassment.
Yeah. This year's event was huge. And it's, again, as Vernon said, this is an event aimed at OEMs, but what it means for consumers is pretty big. Because the biggest announcement, one that I kind of spoiled there with an early jump of the gun, was that they showed Windows 10 64-bit running on, or rather they called it 64-bit, but whatever, running on an ARM processor. This is, to be specific, it was a Qualcomm Snapdragon. And I'm not 100% sure if they said the exact Snapdragon model here.
I thought it was an 820, actually, which is
yeah, I'm not
current.
Yeah. It's, they're not saying it right here where I'm looking, but if it is an 820, yeah, that'll be nice. And it's running blazing fast. First off, when you think Qualcomm Snapdragon processor, which is an ARM-based processor for phones, you don't normally think I'm going to run a desktop operating system on this at top speed. And, what would you... what do you originally think, Vernon? When you hear we're running Windows on a phone processor, not Windows 10 mobile, full Windows 10 desktop on a phone.
I think I've rolled back. First of all, I think of the Motorola Atrix and how horrible that experience was and how genius the concept was. It just happened to be half a decade too early. And then, of course, Continuum, followed up with that and is making things work much, much better in giving the appearance of the desktop. And now, of course, running actual desktop with these, what we consider mobile chips, is pretty fantastic. And I think two things right offhand. Obviously, the chip needs to be powerful enough to handle it. Needs to be optimized for it. The hardware, the silicon needs to be optimized for what it's doing. But we can certainly assume, and it was almost a requirement, that Windows 10 needs to be optimized in one manner or another for this. And even as simple as just taking out the old bits, not just stacking.
The thing about
update over on top of
putting Windows 10 on it isn't exactly too simple, as it is an entirely different processor architecture. It is a port, rather. And Windows 10 for ARM has still been compiled. Like, for example, even though Windows RT is dead, and I'm not 100% sure if this is still technically, using some of the same things here, but Windows 10 for ARM has been still compiled consistently. Even if Windows RT is considered dead, it is incredibly likely that this is running off some sort of trace of Windows RT. It's likely got some little heritage, bloodline, whatever back there. And it works in a pretty different fashion than Windows RT.
If anything, it's comparable. I have no doubt there's something like that. Like you said, a heritage, the lineage came from RT. And for all intents and purposes, it basically could just be the better version of RT. But
better for sure comes to mind because This is almost kind of closer to Windows 64-bit when it comes to how it's going to actually run desktop applications. As little lowdown here for some people who might not know. Windows 10 64-bit does not exactly natively run 32-bit applications. The entire reason you're able to run a 32-bit application on your 64-bit Windows install is thanks to something that was previously known as, not sure if it still is, as Windows on Windows. WOW for short. And this was initially brought back when 64-bit Windows became a thing, that it is emulation that just emulates the processor, I guess. I'm at a surface level of technical knowledge for this, I guess.
Well, I think I can sum it up basically saying that it's way beyond our comprehension. I mean, like, we can just...
Yeah, it's beyond our comprehension, but it makes it possible to run 32-bit applications on a 64-bit operating system. And this is the same case, except replace 64-bit with ARM, and probably replace 32-bit with 32-bit and 64-bit, although I'm not 100% sure. They demoed this by running Photoshop on this. So, when I think... And I don't even know if Photoshop still offers a 32-bit version. Okay, wait a second. Okay, looking here. Yeah, it is 32-bit. So, but it says hardware partners will be able to build a range of new Qualcomm Snapdragon-powered Windows 10 PCs that run x86, Win32, and Universal Windows apps. So, no 64-bit there. No. Might come in later though with more powerful ones. But yeah, so that confirms it there. That is 32-bit only for now. But regardless, I guess Photoshop still has a Win32 version. And it is actually running well on this. They have a demo video that was originally displayed at WinHEC and is currently up on the official Windows YouTube channel. We have it embedded in our article, which you can find right on the site under MS Power User Podcast for the latest episode. And we'll have a link to it all there. But anyways... It's a quick video that just shows the performance of it, and it'll show, just how quick everything opens up. It'll show off some of the specs, which some of the specs for this thing, let's see. It is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 820, 1.59 gigahertz. They have 4 gigs of RAM, and it says a 64-bit operating system running on an ARM-based processor, which... That kind of seems a little odd if it's only able to run
that just
32-bit
doesn't really
apps.
Line up, I guess. But I'm just wondering what other magic they're running. But
yeah,
but still, it's not even like it's overclocked or anything. 4 gig of RAM is quite reasonable. Obviously, I don't understand how, but I absolutely, at least I think, I easily understand why. And why is because we're becoming more mobile. Okay. Well, two things. Obviously, Qualcomm wants to broaden its market. We'll talk about that later. But the fact that there is a Surface line, okay, it's a very mobile device anyway, and it led the way for many other 2-in-1s or 3-in-1s, whatever you want to call it, like what HP has done. And people really do like that. Well, for one, they like the energy savings or power savings in a mobile chip. Okay, they want to have decent battery on that thing. They also and obviously you don't need to keep it as shouldn't have to fan cool it for one. That's part of the draw to an ARM processor. Well, also they want to be able to have that cellular chip in there, be able to have mobile connectivity wherever you go. We're really getting to the point where
and they actually did announce that too, that mobile connectivity can be in anything, which that kind of amazes me for the potential for a desktop computer. Like just to kind of go and sidetrack onto that for a second, the ability to have, and they said support for up to 5G networks, which I don't even know how many of those are rolled out yet.
I think it's still theoretical or just in testing. But
okay, but yeah, it's so future-proof then. If it's got support for up to 5G networks, that say you're in a rural area, you can't get any decent wired connection for the internet.
Mm-hmm.
However, you do get a good cell signal. Even in your house, you get really good connection to that. So why not have a computer that cuts out the middleman of that internet service provider and just hooks right up to your mobile plan, or maybe a specialized plan from whatever mobile provider you have, or maybe even another provider dedicated just to this entirely. It opens up so much potential because it takes out a lot of the problems that you have in rural areas.
This is actually a very interesting coincidence that today I am running this podcast, or we're Skyping, and I'm using the web internet based off of a cellular connection. My Surface has a cellular chip in there. And then I have two other AT&T phones here. I'm hotspotting off of it. I have a Verizon phone too if I need to fall back on that. And this is like at my old house, my cellular connection was faster than my wired connection. And I don't exactly know what I'm going to end up with for a wired connection at this new house, but I'm not expecting it to be much better. And even if the raw speeds, up and download speeds, may be faster for wired, your latency may be poorer depending on the technology you're using. And so this is in town, okay? And this is not a tiny town either. It's a reasonably sized town. And so that just compounds itself. Andy, what you're saying about living in the country, for people to run fiber out to, like I have an uncle who has a, not cheap home in the country, which is still pretty well populated. Everyone just has a few acres, and they won't run fiber to his place. I mean, he's like a quarter of a block away or something, and so they use cellular. And for years, they had horrible cellular. They couldn't do anything. And then AT&T flipped a switch for their next level LTE or something, and now boom, it's fine. It's better than any other HughesNet satellite internet they could have had or whatever, and it's just cellular. Got it. And you pay for a bundle. It's not unlimited, obviously, but people are willing to do that. I just got the message a moment ago that I'm hitting 38 gig for the month for cellular. Well, that's five lines. Anyway, point being, this is a great example of why why we're progressing towards cellular. And I guess the other side of it too, like I was going to get to, was that Snapdragon, or Qualcomm I should say, really is, I would imagine, ready to duke it out with the big guns, or the big gun, Intel. How do you feel this is, how do you feel this is going to go down?
Well, what I feel is that I'm not sure if this is going to take out Intel, or take out, but I'm not sure how much it'll dent their market share. It all depends on when we start seeing devices with this, and how much they cost, who they're aimed at, and of course how many they sell. If these sell well, especially because of the extra features added by that, like again, the cellular connectivity, Intel might have some real pain until they start countering. Of course, hopefully some of this stuff becomes an industry standard too.
Well, I think so many of these devices, if we are envisioning these mobile cellular connected PCs, if we're envisioning these right, they're still going to be primarily the secondary devices for people, or they will be the only devices for an entire family in a third world country or emerging market. But I think Intel is still going to maintain.
What I'm predicting with it really is that I predict that some of this stuff is going to hit a point where all of a sudden it is able to start running 64-bit applications, and we will end up at a point where it is as widely used as 64-bit today. That is what I'm pretty much predicting. That if they are going to get 64-bit apps running on there as soon as possible. We're going to start seeing beefy PCs running off ARM, and that's what I think the end goal is. Myself, it might take a while to reach, but not everything can stick around forever.
One more aspect of this is that we had, a year ago, 2 years ago, even further back, we had people really crying loudly that they wanted the Surface phone to be Intel powered and to run these desktop apps. Well, Microsoft and Qualcomm basically negated that whole argument by saying, we got that over here. You're good. Where you can do it on ARM. And like we just said, that really throws a curveball into that whole argument, obviously, and changes the paradigm all around it. And like the HP Elite X3, like that thing runs its, I'm kind of drawing a blank on the emulation, proprietary emulation software they use. But
the HP Elite X3, if you're talking about running desktop applications on that, it uses what's basically a streaming service called HP Workspace.
That's right, Workspace, yeah. So that's their solution to this quote-unquote problem because of the limited ARM processors. Well, now the ARM processors are not limited at all in that way, or at least we don't,
Yeah,
that's what this is stating.
And let's be honest here, running a stream of basically anything is inferior to running it on your own hardware.
For sure, yeah.
I mean, there's services like that will run for, say, games or whatnot, where you'll have a beefy computer off in the cloud beaming back a stream of data for you to control, and it is never, ever as good. You'll have picture... Even with a good connection, you will still see a worse picture at times, or all the time.
I feel the same thing could be said for emulation, is that there's nothing like the actual real thing.
Well,
it's
emulation,
gotten really good lately.
There's a couple different types of emulation, in a way. There's the emulation people see that's, say, done by hobbyists for little stuff like, for example, maybe, say, emulators for games where you'll see people running the Nintendo 64 on their Android phone. That's one classification of emulation in my mind. Then there's the class of emulation that Microsoft uses to run 32-bit on 64-bit and now 32-bit on ARM, where, as far as I know, there are no issues you're going to run into running a 32-bit app on a 64-bit computer, thanks to the work they've done on that over the years. Like, maybe in the early days there was something going on, because I do remember hearing some sort of complaints about the 64-bit version of Windows XP, though that was years ago, so I don't remember exactly what it was. But from Vista on, 64-bit doesn't really have any issues. So I guess it is emulation, but it is a flawless kind. It isn't something like Wine, where half the programs work and half of them don't, and that's on a good day.
I value your optimism on that, and I don't devalue the knowledge you have on it. It just seems that in general you would think that they're just, you can't help but think there's a little bit lost in there somewhere from the transition. But I won't dig deeper on that. What else do we want to talk about for this? Because obviously it's huge.
This is what I find especially interesting is that they referred to this, which I believe is Microsoft's next category of devices completely. They uttered for every bit of this was a cellular PC, which sounds a little weird when you compare it with the word Windows Phone. No, this is a cellular PC. It is the opposite. It is, I guess maybe not opposite, but it's kind of it's flipped around, really.
It's arriving at the same place from coming at it from the opposite direction.
Yeah, as opposed to making a phone like a PC, you put features of a phone in a PC. And, I'd say that's a shorter road to the endpoint, too.
Yeah, because really, how many phone functions do people use on their phones anymore? It's really coming down to very few.
When it comes to dedicated phone stuff, I do. Really. I mean, of course, you got calling and texting, but as for all the stuff I can do on my PC, for me personally, it all comes down to portability. But then I still have to keep running back to my desktop computer, or I'll have to go get out my Surface, or et cetera, if I want to do anything serious. which of course that all takes extra time to start up. If this does turn out like for example, I believe it was last week where we were talking about the ultimate mobile device. Was it last week?
Maybe the week before? I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe it was the week before we were talking about it there. Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago, back before Thanksgiving, that we talked about it. And Microsoft talking about, or rather Satya Nadella talking about making the ultimate mobile device. That's something that, as we said then, Microsoft dedicates themselves to making new classes of devices. And whatever this is, I believe it is going to be the next class.
Mm-hmm.
And
absolutely,
you've got Windows, full proper Windows running on phone tier hardware. There's just so many places where this could go, especially if you consider what Microsoft's goal originally was with Continuum. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, I feel as if Windows Phone, I don't want to say it's all over, it's the end, it's gonna die. I don't want to say that. But I want to say that if Microsoft's goal with Windows Phone at the current moment for the past couple of months was, let's run a desktop-like environment on a phone, why go for desktop-like when you can go for desktop?
It almost feels like they pushed out Continuum because they needed like a proof of concept, like to be the first ones there. But then again, this ARM, Windows 10 on ARM, full Windows 10 on ARM is already they're already the first ones there. It really makes you wonder if they're just like somebody said, okay, you 4 groups go end with this, and 2 of them came up with good ideas, one being Continuum, one being desktop on ARM. And
what I think is that really, if we're going to go with it's a proof of a concept, I think it might have been a proof to show, okay, people can use this. Let's move it up higher.
That could be, yeah.
Or alternatively, maybe just getting kind of the same thing, but getting a response to the concept and seeing how the media would react, perhaps.
Maybe, but sometimes, yeah, I don't know. You'd think they wouldn't. I can't imagine they would go through all that R&D to come up with Continuum, push it out, and actually have it on production devices, and just for the media and for people to, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not quite just that, but I don't know. I feel as if it was phase 1 and we're entering phase 2 with ARM on, or rather with Windows on ARM.
But it's definitely not climbing the same ladder. It's going to the same. It's still going to the top of that, getting on the same roof, but a different ladder. It's getting off the Continuum ladder and getting on this desktop on ARM ladder. And so I don't know. I don't know where the two are going to exist together. I don't see where they will merge.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, again, I don't want to just say gloom and doom. Windows Phone is completely 100% dead, but if Windows Phone's goal is a desktop environment, or rather, main feature that Microsoft is selling to businesses is that it's got a desktop environment and it's still portable, and you can do some work on an app on your phone, then instantly switch over to desktop and continue working on that. Why do that when you could just run a full PC there? Windows is certainly capable of adapting to it. Maybe running like a super lockdown power mode for the phone-like user interface, or whatever, and then instantly switch over, or dare I say it, just make it a phablet. I think that's how you say it, right?
That's what I'm expecting, is a 6.5 to 7 inch displayed, like the 1520 kind of. That won't be comfortable in your pocket, but will be just fine in a merce, or I guess in the front pocket of a suit or something. And that's your work device. And maybe you'll make a phone call with it sometimes. Yeah.
I just don't really see 2 devices with the exact same concept coexisting equally and calmly. But hey, who knows? This is Microsoft, and they have made some decisions that either seem crazy or questionable at best to a variety of results, so we'll see how it turns out.
Or have just been the right concept too early.
Yeah, which I hope this does not turn out to be that. I'd say the worst thing for something to be is ahead of its time and not well received.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I think that sums up just about everything we can say on the Qualcomm / ARM-based processor news.
Except we're going to WinHEC next year. Probably not.
Yeah, I don't even think not more than I don't even think. They don't even send out invites to that unless you happen to be an OEM.
Yeah. But hey, maybe they're whatever.
Hey, listen.
After this awesome rant we had on it, Andy, we've just talked up Microsoft's WinHEC capabilities. Anyway, all right, next.
If you dial this number, you can call me and then go send a ticket or something.
Okay, so next we have, a few weeks ago, we were super excited to go to Microsoft's New York event where they were going to release this the Google Home and Amazon Echo competitor. And it didn't happen, except it did, or it is. I mean, Microsoft has announced that they're planning to bring out what they call Project Evo. And basically it is that. It's competing with Amazon Echo and the like. And I'm excited for it, I guess.
Yeah, and this was something. Let me see where the exact announcement here. Oh, it's the same post I was already reading, just on a different segment. Oh boy. Yeah, Microsoft taking on the Echo, or rather. Yeah, they announced that this is a new wave of modern PCs, that's the name of the section. For that, they say Windows has always been about deep partnerships that marry the best innovation across hardware, software, and services to provide our customers with groundbreaking experiences and great device choices. One of our most important partners making this possible is Intel, and today I'm thrilled to announce our latest collaboration, codenamed Project Evo. With Project Evo, Microsoft and Intel will deliver all new ways for devices to light up with the latest in... light up? Okay, whatever. With the latest in advanced security, artificial intelligence, and Cortana, mixed reality, and gaming. Through this collaboration, devices of the future will leverage Microsoft and Intel innovations. And then they mention some of these innovations, which are the Echo / Home, whatever. Yeah, Google Home, that's it.
I didn't see them mention Google Home in here at all. And I think
but
that's awesome.
It's the exact. Yes. I'm glad it's not like the Surface advertisements where they're comparing it to a MacBook 24/7. But this is exactly what the Echo / Home, which I still believe looks like a Glade product instead of a Google one, do. The very first one on the list here, far field speech communication, so you can ask Cortana a question or play a song from across the room. There you have basically the entire reason anyone bought an Echo in the first place. Then it says, the latest security capabilities to protect devices from malware and hacking threats, advances in biometric authentication with Windows Hello, sophisticated insights from Microsoft's Intelligent Security Graph, additional world-class security intelligence, and analytics from Intel.
So a lot of that security stuff pretty much went over my head, okay, as it normally would, except for Windows Hello. So biometrics. So voice recognition, for one, we can just assume that. That makes sense. And that kind of solves the problem of what we talked about before. Okay, you have this kitchen device and everyone's using it. Well, if it just picks up on who's talking, then it logs you in and out in a crude manner into your own thing. If I walk in and say, hey, whatever.
Well, I'm not sure if they would go with voice authentication for Windows Hello, because the thing is, aside from voice recognition, still kind of being a little early in that department, I believe, because say Cortana will, even if I have it set to answer to my voice only, I will still see it pop up from time to time when I have Hey Cortana enabled when someone else says it. So
now let me say this.
That's there, and it's
Okay. I think there's a dial there. I think you can roll the dial back and forth. Obviously, we don't, based on a balance between very accurate word recognition and very accurate voice recognition. The specific person, and it's a balance in between. So that's how I feel about it. That's how I'm envisioning it. And this is obviously the next level.
I feel as if some of that tech is either too early or just too insecure. Because to think about it to begin with Windows Hello, it's got depth for cameras. It has depth sensing, so that it tells that someone's not just holding up a picture of your face. For the fingerprint scanner, obviously you're not going to be getting into a fingerprint scanner that easily unless you have that person's thumb in your hand, which would be a little creepy. But anyways, let
me roll this back again. That there's always been layers of security that we use. Okay, so the PIN, people type in the PIN. Well, for one, that isn't necessarily that secure because people can just see it. There's a key. Okay, you can.
Well, the PIN isn't part of Windows Hello. Windows Hello's entire point is that it is the highest in security, I think. So I don't think they would go with voice recognition, because it is always possible to just play back a recording of someone's voice and have it picked up by a microphone. At least that's what I think about it. Unless you're putting cameras in the microphone to see if the person's actually there, I don't think it'll work.
Well,
as an additional way, maybe, but not.
I guess
as
I'm just
Windows
looking
Hello.
at this further down, and I down the road, and this is what, if I was conceptualizing this is what I would go with. And they kind of solved, if this works, that solved that problem of multiple people using the same device and still keeping track of all their metadata, their Bing searches. And
there's a little bit of that we can talk about later on when we get to talking about this week's build, because there is some stuff in there that is that, though not involved with extreme authentication or whatnot, but you'll see. Anyways, I believe that this is going to be something along the lines of an all-in-one device, or maybe not all-in-one with a screen, but a desktop device with Echo-like features, as it goes on to say that it's got mixed reality experiences for everyone through affordable PCs and head-mounted displays that blend the physical and virtual realities in ways that no other platform can. This is sounding like it is more than sounding. They say that it is a PC, but it has the functions of the Echo, the Home, etc. And you can see Cortana being changed in recent builds to be even closer to them. And then also, final one is that they'll have gaming innovations like esports. I could go on for an hour about that, but game broadcasting, cool. And support for 4K, also cool. High dynamic range, cool. Wide color gamut, spatial audio, and Xbox controllers with native Bluetooth.
So let's roll back to mixed reality for a moment here. The HoloLens, for all intents and purposes, $3,000. Let's just say $2,000 once they get it trimmed down and whatever. But obviously, there's other OEMs that are coming up with things like this, both VR and MR. And so instead of having to pack all that processing power into the HMD head-mounted display, if you can connect closely enough with this Evo type device, well, then you're improving mobility. You're probably improving battery life. You are it's just the next level, and so you could run multiple of those devices perhaps with this Echo. If it's an Echo, as I understand it, is still just
this is Evo.
I'm sorry, Evo. Wow. Yes, Evo.
It's almost like they intentionally made the name close.
Perhaps. But also Evo meaning evolution. It's moving forward. But imagine this: as I understand it, Evo is the software, or it is the kind of the OS. Let's just call it that for
Evo. Well, Evo, as far as I can tell, it is a hardware project. Rather, what they're calling this collaboration between Microsoft and Intel, where that is the name of what they are working together with. Like, they are going to build a group of devices in Project Evo and say maybe they will be Project Evo PC1, Project Evo PC2. Of course, not final names, but it's not the name of the operating system changes or anything like that. It's just the current code name for this class of devices that they're developing together.
Well, I guess I do see that aspect of it, but I can see how this could progress into where you can have these functions run on higher spec devices, and since it is Windows 10, it's not.
Yeah. Some of these devices, some of these functions are not already. Some of these functions are already getting in here. Although far-field speech communication sounds as if they would need a fancy microphone in there for that. But some of these functions are coming to this week's Windows 10 build, which we will talk about very, very soon. And speaking of reality and all, Microsoft has been working to make virtual reality and mixed reality a bit cheaper as they're developing it. And I don't mean and for anyone who wants to snark, I don't, of course, mean that in a derogatory way. I mean price point here. For example, a few months back, they announced that they were working on cheaper VR headsets with their partners, and that the cheapest one of that would be just below $300. Well, this would run on a new Windows 10 VR platform, and at WinHEC they announced the minimum specifications needed, and these are actually pretty all right as far as I can tell. Minimum specs, and I believe this would be like the specifications for just maybe launching whatever hub they have for virtual reality, where they have a HoloLens-like UI. You would need for your CPU an Intel Mobile Core i5 dual core with hyper-threading equivalent, which that's not bad. Then for the GPU, this is where it gets to be interesting here, because when it comes to gaming, generally you do not want integrated graphics. In general, although they are getting better, integrated graphics are still not very good. I'm not sure about this particular model though, but integrated Intel HD graphics 620 or GT2 or an equivalent or greater DirectX 12 API capable GPU. So right off the bat there, working with integrated graphics, which that is doing most of the work here in most cases, and it is generally, from my experience, what's going to most influence your experience. Of course, RAM and processor are important as well, but for visuals, whatever. And running on integrated, the lowest of the low, that interests me. Then onto RAM, you're going to need 8 gigabytes or more, and dual channel required for integrated graphics. HDMI seems to be required here. Hard drive, 100 gigabytes or more, preferably with an SSD, although a hard drive still works. And then USB and Bluetooth, etc. But all in all, pretty standard stuff from there on out. But for the main specs, it's not that bad at all. So not only are they trying to make it affordable, they're trying to make it work well on your PC that you have right in front of you today. In my case, for that to happen, they would have to ship me one, preferably a Surface Studio, hint, hint, hint. But, yeah.
Well, VR, the last couple years now, let's say almost 2 years back now, really needed strong hardware to handle this stuff. Like the HTC Vive, for example, or Oculus Rift especially, needs pretty good processing, the specs. And this is basically just it's causing everyone to rethink this again. I think this is probably a game changer for some. I am not into VR or MR as much as others, obviously, but this really does make people rethink. Oh wow, I thought I need to spend $3,000 on a PC to have this cool tethered enclosed environment thing. Well, now you can be, I guess in these cases, still tethered, at least what we're assuming, but open environment, mixed reality, and you can have, in some cases, just your standard PC and it's not as nearly as prohibitive. I mean, $300 for these headsets. It's really, I think it is game changing, and I really want to see what I should say. It will be game changing once this rolls out, and I really want to see what Apple's going to be doing, because they obviously have a VR or mixed reality play. Tim Cook actually said something about, what did he say a few weeks ago? How mixed is the way forward, and virtual is just lame, whatever. And
yeah, I'm not gonna agree with him there. Although I'm not gonna agree with him much on anything.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
but I do agree with him on that, though. I don't agree with him on much, but I don't like when I've tried virtual reality with the Vive. I just was not impressed. I don't remember if I talked about it on this show or not.
You did, and
okay.
I think it for some cases it depends on the software you're using entirely, because there are pretty bad tech demos people threw together with bare bones whatevers and stuff they got off the Unity asset store, as opposed to people who genuinely put work into whatever they're working on. Like, for example, Valve, same company behind Steam, has thrown a third of their entire company into virtual reality. In fact, they were working with HTC on the Vive. And it all depends on whatever software you're using. If you're using something that's just a simple tech demo that is thrown together in maybe 5 hours or whatever, you're obviously not going to have as good an experience as someone in their home with a thing they paid some good money for.
But you're never going to get people to pay good money for that thing in their home if there are not great tech demos. So to me, that's true. That's your R&D right there. That's your investment, is to make sure that people actually see the future of this. And those initial tech demos need to be probably better than what people typically use once they buy it, in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, though, moving on to one of our last topics this week. Windows 10 build 14986 is a huge one. And this includes a lot of the Cortana stuff that I believe does tie into Project Evo, which is interesting. All right, so Vernon, do you want to start, or should I?
Why don't you start on this? I'm not as familiar with this one.
All right. So one of the first things to get out of the way, excuse me here. Okay. Well, anyways, one of the first things to note about this build is that this is the first PC build that you will download with UUP, which is the new update platform, which is intended to make the download smaller and faster and work better. It's currently so early on that it is the opposite of all three, which is a huge disappointment to some. I've had a friend who's been tearing it apart from the inside out for the past day now, and he's found that it not only are the downloads larger, something that you will find obvious instantly is that downloading it is now a pain in the rear, where you'll often find it failing or just being incredibly bizarre. I'm sure I'm sure it's going to get ironed out in the future, but as it is, ooh boy, good luck downloading the build, boys. Okay, but now on to the actual rest of the changelog here. That is good stuff. They are making Cortana, as they put it, awesomer, which we'll see here how that works out. But now here comes the stuff that ties into Evo, that you can now turn off your computer and change the volume with voice commands, which it sounds like something you would kind of want in a device you'd be controlling with audio commands. Then it also says Cortana loves music. You can now use Cortana to control music playback on on more of your favorite music apps. And this is currently only available in EN/US. Starting with this build, we've enabled natural language compatibility for iHeartRadio and TuneIn Radio. This will work on both above the lock screen, PC is locked, as well as below. Okay, so if your PC is locked and you can just start playing music from, say, iHeartRadio right in there, as you're not near it, It's like stand up, walk away, and be like, "Hey, Cortana, I want to listen to the Backstreet Boys." You probably wouldn't be saying that, and we'll go with it.
No, probably unlikely. I want to add to this that for so long, Cortana would not allow you to check what is playing off of your current device because it would listen, meaning it would shut off what you're playing, which is pretty counterintuitive and a big, big pile of stupid, really. And I'm really glad that they added this in. I mean, that's makes sense. They fixed it.
Yeah. Well, actually, let's see though. It also says, I'm looking through real quick on some of it. They also said that Cortana will remember the last played music app, so you don't have to say on groove for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's if cool. You just say the desired app one time, like play jazz music on iHeartRadio, and then just say play rock music, and it'll play on iHeartRadio both times. That's good. Then there's also music recognition for simplified Chinese. Excuse me. Full screen when idle, where it says we've made major improvements to Cortana's look when using Hey Cortana when your PC is unlocked and idle. So when your PC is idle, say you leave your monitor on, you don't have it set to auto off or lock or whatever, and you stand up and you walk away, you don't touch the mouse or anything, you say, "Hey Cortana, I don't want to listen to the Backstreet Boys. Play something good instead." It'll have a user interface that looks similar to the lock screen, which makes sense and looks pretty good. And it says that it has been optimized for far field viewing, which again, I believe this ties in more to Project Evo, where you're going to just walk away from wherever that device is and you're going to ask it to do stuff, which I think makes sense. And then there's some stuff that's a little less interesting, like Azure Active Directory identities, which you can now sign into Cortana with that. Enterprise Cloud Printing works, where there's now settings under printers and scanners for corporate users. And the Windows Game Bar has improved full screen support, which the Windows Game Bar, which you bring up by holding the Windows key and pressing G, or actually just pressing the guide button on your Xbox controller if that's hooked in. Normally, it will only work in windowed games. There's some full screen ones where it will work, but that is not the majority. Now they've added 19 additional popular games in there that will work, ranging from titles that have been out for a while like Arma 3 to brand new ones like Battlefield 1 and Overwatch, which is pretty cool, I think. I have not seen much of a reason to use the game bar myself, but I hope I do in the future. Yeah. And it says you can also control this feature through the Windows Game Bar settings. In the settings dialog, just look for the Show Game Bar when I play full screen games checkbox. Neat. Then Windows Ink, which Vernon has more experience with than I.
Yeah, they say they're taking it to the next level. So resuming previous screen sketches. So that's kind of cool. They're saying we've heard your feedback. It can be too easy to accidentally lose your screen sketch. They call it lose your screen sketch. And we're excited to announce that with 986 you can now resume previous sketches. That makes sense. I like that, and I can see how that I have had that issue before, and it's good to have it there. By default, when you open the screen sketch, it'll always open to a new screenshot, but now you can click the resume button and it'll go back to the previous sketch you're working on. Updated flyout visuals. Everybody wants better flyouts, and it's just making it prettier, and that's all I'm getting out of it, I guess. As far as the UI. And then better control over ruler rotation. I haven't really used the ruler enough to comment too much on this, but they are making it better. It's easier to line up the ruler with a couple points on the screen is that point. And of course, just overall polishing the inking experience. And for a couple reasons, I'm sure. There's more and more surfaces being sold with Surface pens, okay? But also, inking is for Windows 10, not just Surface. And so this, as more and more of these devices, by other OEMs, obviously, they're having better inking devices. What would you call them? Pointing devices. And so it's growing, and they're making it, giving people a better reason to go get a pen, or on a touchscreen for that matter.
Well, that's interesting. Something else that I think is a little interesting is that, previously we've been getting new Microsoft Edge extensions available for people running preview builds, and I can only assume it's because only certain Windows 10 builds have the features in Edge needed for these extensions to be tested and used. And that still stays true here, where they say that now in the store you can get a look at the eBates extension, Intel TrueKey, and Read and Write. 3 brand new extensions for Edge users, which leaves me asking the question, is this really how they're just going to keep it going? Because you cannot submit your own Edge extensions to the store yet. Why are we stuck waiting for a new Insider build for any of them? Listen, I get that some protocols or API stuff may not be available in the current public build. That's all right. We don't have to have every extension immediately, but it sure would be nice if you could at least let us submit some right now, because Edge is certainly capable of running plenty of extensions. Just look at stuff like AdBlock or what else? It just seems so weird to me. I mean, Edge finally has extensions, yes. Now, where's, the big amount of extensions?
Yeah, it is disappointing, but it's, I don't know. I'll be optimistic. Just say it's still, okay, soon. It's still soon.
Yeah. All
right.
And now I think we might as well go hyper mode to go over some of the other stuff here, so I'll just go over the biggest bits. In that there is now a new Windows Defender dashboard. This is something that's been in the Windows Store for a while as the Windows Defender Hub. It is now actually, Windows Defender. And it is a UWP app that adjusts to your theme, so finally you can flesh out the viruses in nice black. It's very slimming. And it's a basic app at the moment that is eventually going to completely replace the current Windows Defender, which is so nice. Is that, because I've said this for years, Windows Defender does not look like a product by Microsoft. No. Not even something by Windows 7 era Microsoft.
It just feels weird.
Windows Defender looks like a rogue. Mm-hmm. that is just existing to say you have a virus when you don't and take your money. It does not look like something that is official or legitimate or anything made in the current century.
Mm-hmm.
And so, they're finally changing that up, and it's long overdue, but I'm glad it's happening. And then also, rendering technology has been updated, which will cause a couple of glitches here and there with visuals, but it should also improve, or rather, I've heard it really does improve looks on high DPI displays. Mm-hmm. And I think that's all we'll go over here.
All right.
Real quick.
We'll move ahead quickly. Cortana.
Yeah.
iOS and Android, obviously Cortana is on those operating systems, and that is a great thing for Microsoft. I really do wonder how big of a market, how many people using those Android and iOS are using Cortana, but I know it's growing.
Just to sum up how many people are using Cortana on mobile. I have an old friend, and I mean old in age, nothing bad there. Yeah, I gotta get my words together here. I know I have a friend who is a senior, not too into technology, but he has Cortana installed on his device, not even by my recommendation. And I believe it's completely synced up with his Windows 10 PC. I think he might have even gotten it through, say, the Phone Companion app. And he really likes it.
Nice.
So a completely normal person who not a Microsoft fan or anything, just someone with a computer and a phone, Android device, who runs Cortana on there. And I think that the exact opposite of a tech market watcher or anything like that, enjoying it. So I think that kind of sums up where Cortana's popularity is going to go.
Mm-hmm. And especially just the tie-in with Windows 10, obviously, where you're having it everywhere.
and you've got notifications synced up, etc.
Yeah.
And, well, it has always had a bit of a different user interface, or rather, for the past couple of months it has, where, for example, on iOS and Android, you have this gigantic circular volume button right in the center of it, and it was pretty different looking. Well, now it looks even more different from its Windows counterpart, as Cortana is now purple. Very, very purple. The user interface is completely changed, no longer opting for a hamburger menu at all. Instead, having I forget what we even called this. I believe that the unofficial term that was used was a waffle menu. It's a 3x3 grid.
Yeah, waffle menu.
That you tap that and it opens up a section from the bottom with the various segments you can go to, and it works perfectly. Honestly, way better than the hamburger menu ever did. It's got a very fancy looking design. Again, completely purple. I have no idea why.
Let me point out that this waffle menu, well, obviously looks so much better than the hamburger menu because of the food, healthier or something. No.
Yeah.
The position of it is at the bottom, where your thumb is.
It's sensible.
Which is what I've been crying for, I don't know, half a decade now. Makes sense. Except it's not on Windows Phone yet, which does not make sense. Except that does make sense based off of history.
I think we have to just ask, will it ever? Because I don't think you are going to see this design on Windows ever. Partially because the design language is changing up with Project Neon, and I do not see Neon going this way. I mean, it might have some elements of stuff like this, but this is not a Neon design. I mean, like, from the bits and snippets we've heard, this is something that is totally different. Very nice, very modern design that I hope shows that we'll see more stuff like this in the modern Microsoft, but it's too big of a change from where Microsoft has everything else set up to be part of it, I guess. Just to kind of quell the people who might be thinking that it is early look at Project Neon because it's a Microsoft product with a different design. No, it's just a different design. I don't believe it's part of anything new and fancy there. Yeah.
All right. Anything to add to that? Are we about done?
Well, we have moved the app of the week to the end because apparently that's what normal people do. I'm sorry. And this week's app of the week is Halo 5 Forge. Technically, this is a game, not an app, but our entire focus here is that we highlight good stuff in the Windows Store, and today, with the Monitor's Bounty update, it has become something that I would easily say is something good in the Windows Store. Now, Halo 5 Forge started off without any kind of organized multiplayer. You could invite Xbox Live friends to join a game, but that's it. You didn't have a server browser, you didn't have matchmaking or anything like that. And now it's opted for the more traditional PC approach of a custom game browser, which is a server browser with the exception of the fact that you're not hosting any dedicated servers or anything. So now you can set up your custom maps and game types and then invite all of your friends, or if you have no friends, just let the public flood on in. It's really, really cool, and essentially means that you have free Halo multiplayer with completely custom maps and whatnot, 100% free on your Windows 10 device, as long as you got the hardware needed to run the game in the first place. And that is a pretty cool thing. As always, if you would like to suggest a app of the week to us, you can send an email to andrew@mspoweruser.com. Keep those suggestions flowing. And there we go.
Yes. Well, we are about done. Folks, thank you for listening to the MS Power User Podcast.
I think you can tell that we're recording a little late now because we had delays.
Yeah, we had substantial delays, but it was worth it. I think it was a decent episode. We covered some stuff that I think is we're gonna see a lot more of all this coming up, and I'm excited for it. You can follow MS Power User on Twitter at MS Power User, and of course you'll find out all the latest headlines, but also when the new episode is available. Andy and some other folks at the site publish this episode, or the show every Friday, and you can listen every Friday. You can follow us on Twitter individually. My single tweet of the week last week was to Andy about System of a Down, which threw him off apparently. But you can follow me on Twitter at Vernon EL, and Andy tweets much more frequently, is on Twitter at FusionFan45. And of course, email Andy or me if you want to. But Andy's the one who's going to be app of the week. All that.
I think I'm the one who actually looks at their email inbox.
Yeah, you're probably right. That's it, everyone. Take care and have a great week.
Yep.